is presenting it as a scandal, a controversy, but I'm not sure they're just making a big deal out of nothing. We're going to talk about the money for teachers that has not yet been spent. We're also going to talk with Tom Ahart, interim superintendent, about that. We're also going to talk with Maureen McHugh. Dr. Maureen McHugh is with Physicians for Social Responsibility. We're going to talk about Mid-American Energy deciding to back off on coal use at some of its power plants here in Iowa. And finally, Heather Ryan will join us. Heather is a talent manager who, in her spare time, ran for Congress against Mitch McConnell once. We're going to talk with her about the possible Tea Party effort to find a Republican primary opponent for Mitch McConnell in the next election.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Ed Fallon here, folks. Gateway Market and Cafe is your locally owned source for specialty groceries. Enjoy chef-crafted, prepared foods, artisan baked goods, organic produce, specialty cheeses, and hand-selected wines and craft beer. Visit the lively cafe for breakfast, lunch, or dinner 7 days a week. Gateway Market is centrally located on the corner of Martin Luther King Jr. Parkway and Woodland Ave. Stop by or visit www.gatewaymarket.com for more details. That's Gateway Market, folks. Good food, great community. Since 1994, Sid's Catering has graced Des Moines area events with quality service and rave reviews. Owner Sid Cohn's culinary career began with a Northeast Iowa vacation home for international clientele. Sid earned a Bachelor of Science in Hotel Restaurant Management and was the assistant clubhouse manager at Des Moines Golf and Country Club. Sid has a passion for fresh, local products and offers a wide range of options, including vegan, gluten-free, and ethnic. Mention the Fallon Forum when you book your breakfast or lunch event and get 10% off. Contact Sid's Catering at 208-2091. That's Sid's Catering at 208-2091. On March 28th, Equal Justice After Hours is Iowa Legal Aid's annual fundraiser that helps provide access to justice for low-income Iowans. The event includes a reception and program at the Temple for the Performing Arts in Des Moines. It also includes remarks by Georgetown University law professor Peter Edelman and the induction of Robert Oberbillig into the Iowa Legal Aid Hall of Fame. Tickets start at $50 and sponsorship opportunities are available. Contact Terry Bennett at tbennett@iowalaw.org. That's tbennett@iowalaw.org.
Times are tough, and most people are just trying to make their cars last a little bit longer. That's why you should know about Sargent's Garage in Des Moines. You can trust Sargent's to make the right diagnosis and give you a fair price. Whether it's a routine oil change or a major repair, Sargent's always does outstanding work. So don't give up on that old car just yet. Call Sargent's Garage at 246-8149. That's 246-8149 for Sargent's Garage.
Ludwig van Beethoven here. I used to be so tired all the time, not from composing and playing, but from moving my piano. But now I feel so much better. I call S&P Piano and they will bring my piano anywhere. They also sell and rent pianos, used ones, new ones. You get the idea.
Call S&P Piano right away at 208-6453. That's 208-6453.
S&P Piano.
I love driving to Newton to see the
Me
races.
too, but I only have to drive across town.
You live in Newton?
Yep, Newton's got small town charm and it's close to Des Moines. I love the safe, friendly neighborhoods and family-owned businesses. And Newton's wind energy industry is really taking off.
How'd you find your home?
Dan Kelly with First Choice Realty. And Dan helped me find my office too.
Next time, instead of just speeding by, I'll stop in and check out Newton.
Why don't you check out Newton? Call Dan Kelly at 641-521-9260 or Dan Kelly at mchsi.com.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Happy Frigid Friday, everyone. Welcome to the Fallon Forum. I want to thank Brother Trucker and Andy Fleming for kicking the show off with their song, Downtown. And I want to thank the Iowa chapter of the Sierra Club and Iowa Physicians for Social Responsibility for sponsoring the Fallon Forum. And also, I want to thank Gateway Market for sponsoring this segment of the show. And I got to say, I don't know why I'm wearing an Occupy Boston t-shirt. Maddie, we need to find somebody who can tell me how to dress. I have no idea why I'm wearing this, except I like the color white, maybe, and it fits in with the snow. I was able to walk down here and detect and avoid detection by authorities that want me for some reason. Anyway, I'm kidding on that account. We got a lot to talk about today. Heather Ryan will be with us later in the show. Heather's a local political activist and also has a talent firm. She also ran against Mitch McConnell. We're going to talk with her about what that was like and why Mitch McConnell might be seeing a primary opponent coming from the Tea Party. We're also going to talk with Dr. Maureen McHugh about coal and how Mid-American has agreed to abandon the use of coal at several plants here in Iowa. But first, we're going to talk with Tom Ahart. He is the interim superintendent of the Des Moines Public Schools. And there is... Well, if you're the Des Moines Register, you're going to call it a controversy, but I think some people are scratching their heads and wondering. This is about money that was appropriated to the Des Moines School District specifically for hiring teachers. It has yet to be spent. Again, some are trying to make that into an act of negligence. Others are saying, well, the time frame in which that's supposed to be spent hasn't expired yet. So the guy on the front line, Tom Ahart, is going to talk with us about that. And if we have time, I also want to get into the whole allowable growth debate. Tom, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Ed.
Yeah. So your take on this?
Well, we did add 32 teaching positions immediately before the start of the school year for this school year, FY13, fiscal year 13. The $7.8 million referenced in the Register article is our unreserved fund balance, and that seems like a large number relative to about the last 10 years of the school district's budget.
Right.
But the board has been trying to get that unreserved fund balance, the solvency ratio, in other words, up to a healthy level.
Now, using some big words there for us. Unreserved fund balance, solvency level.
Yeah, so solvency ratio is essentially what does it cost to operate the district on a day-to-day basis, and how much
cash flow.
Yeah, cash flow, essentially. A healthy solvency ratio is about 8%. That's good. It's not particularly healthy, but it's good. 15% would be strong. We're currently at about 12.6%.
Okay, meaning you've got a bit of a cushion in your account.
Yes, and so then if you look at, for instance, for us, that's about enough money to get us partway through the summer paying salaries before we get another state allocation. So in other words, if you have a very weak fund balance, your credit rating goes down, it's more expensive to bond for construction through the state penny sales tax and so forth. So and it's a reserve in case something happens, like has happened twice since in the 5 years I've been in Des Moines, where there's been either a mid-year across the board cut at the state, which is very difficult to absorb, especially mid-year, and then another year where we had a 10% across the board budget cut. So the $7.8 million, just to be clear, the board never approved that to be spent on ongoing expenses because it's not a renewable source of revenue. So they did approve that over 4 or 5 years we spend about $2 million a year. It's a $7.8 million balance, so $2 million a year roughly for 4 years on one-time expenses that will improve our efficiencies and our operations.
So, if memory serves, both Governor Vilsack and Governor Culver had to cut the state budget by 10%. And again, there's all sorts of background into that, but basically fiscal times were tough, and there was one way to address the problem. It made more sense than calling a special session in those cases. And again, when that happens, schools get hit as well. So if, anticipating that a 10% cut historically is very possible, and given the fluidity of the times and the challenging economic conditions under which we live, I mean, right now the budget looks good. That can change pretty quick. That can go south really fast.
Right. It's healthy now, and it looks very healthy compared to recent years, but it's not exactly a shining star right now. Yeah. We're at about probably where we should be.
So basically, you're saying right now you've got 8% to and 8%. What do I want to say?
Well, actually, right now we're sitting
12%.
At
you said
12.6. Yeah.
Okay, which gives you a little bit of a cushion in case something happens. And again, the money that was earmarked for teachers, for hiring additional teachers, and that's I guess to try to reduce class size a bit.
And you're saying this was earmarked for hiring teachers, according to whom?
What is? I mean, I'm just referencing the article in the paper.
Yeah, that was inaccurate.
Okay. So that itself, even the headline is inaccurate. You're saying.
What actually happened by the board? Just to be clear, we've been trying to identify ways to run our operations more efficiently. Lots of energy saving initiatives going on in the district. We're recognized as a very green district. We've been spending less and less on energy. We've been finding some efficiencies in how we operate our human resources department, our business and finance department. We did a comprehensive look all over last year of all contracts that we have with any sort of external vendors, and we saw some savings from those things. The savings from that, as well as the difference in what we projected salary costs were going to be prior to negotiations, what they ended up being after negotiations, netted in savings over what our projected costs were going to be of around a little over $2 million. And that was the money that was designated to help reduce class size. With that money, we've hired 32 teachers, which is almost exactly $2.2 million.
So now I did notice
that did not come out at all in the Register article.
Okay. And again, this story was 2 days ago.
Right.
This is Friday. It was Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, it was yesterday. It was Thursday, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Thursday.
It was Thursday. It was yesterday.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I noticed that today there is no follow-up story. Often when the Register gets its hands on what it thinks is some big, juicy school controversy, they'll milk that, as far as they can, story after story, blog post, emails if you're Nancy Sebring, and they didn't do that. So I'm suspecting maybe they're realizing, this is probably not the deal we were trying to make it at.
Well, some of us in administration and on the board have tried to contact the author of that article and have not gotten any response.
You didn't get a response?
No. Interesting.
The press likes to complain.
Disappointing.
Yeah, I complain about lawmakers and others not responding to questions when I need some information, a quote. And the media, generally speaking, expect to have their calls returned because it's usually timely. You would expect, though, that courtesy would be returned in the other direction as well. So
you would hope so.
I'm surprised and sorry to hear that. But
I'm disappointed, but that's...
Well, but let's move. I mean, the big issue really is this allowable growth debate.
You know what? Yeah, there are two things, Ed. Just before you move on with the rest of the question, the allowable growth is one thing, but the other thing that helped us get into this current situation is we have to make some budget projections to set our budget because we need to approve our budget with the state, certify it with the state by April 15th.
That's why there's a law. There's a deadline, a statutory law. Okay, that's redundant. A statutory deadline that says you got to approve the budget by a certain date, Mr. and Mrs. Lawmaker, so schools can get their fiscal house in order.
They've ignored the last several years. So we have to certify a budget before we know allowable growth, and if we don't know allowable growth, then we also typically don't have negotiations done because that's a big piece of negotiations with our employee groups. And our salaries in our operation are about 85% of our entire budget. Right. So you have to go in and set a budget flying blind. You're making some very, very major assumptions. Yeah. So this year we hopefully will know allowable growth. That's a very open
What is the actual
right
deadline?
Now.
Is it the?
It's within 30 days of when the governor presents his budget.
So let's see, and that's been presented.
Yes.
Okay, so we're looking at maybe the 15th or so of February, roughly?
In theory.
In theory, okay. Well, they might hit that, but again, with Governor Branstad posturing on this, saying, do my reform proposal first or we don't get allowable growth. I mean, I don't know how far he wants to take that. It's against the law. Right. And it's bad policy. And I think it's also bad politics. People, Republicans and Democrats and independents alike, really don't like to see our kids being used as a political football, and it almost gets you get a sense that that's what the governor is willing to do.
That's what it feels like, yeah. And it's really challenging, like you said. If we have an established set of rules, whether we agree with them or not, at least we can all follow those same rules. When the governor or the legislature isn't required to play by the rules that they've established for themselves, it really puts us in a very challenging position.
Yeah, and 87% of school superintendents, yourself and there are 350 roughly others around the state, have said, don't do this. Meet the statutory deadline for determining allowable growth. Work on the. I don't know what exactly the letter said, or what exactly was presented. But I know that the news is 87% of all superintendents don't think that we ought to be playing this game with allowable growth.
Right. And it's really, it's not even so much about the amount of allowable growth. It's us knowing so we can be planful about how we use public resources to accomplish the mission of our organizations.
Yeah.
And this year there's also the added, especially for a district like Des Moines, there's the added unknown of the federal government possibly going into sequestration. And if that happens, that impacts some fairly large revenue sources for us as well. Title I and IDEA, the special education funding. So that's a pretty significant source for us
Special
too.
ed is almost entirely, or if not entirely, from federal sources.
Virtually all federal, yeah.
Title IX, I believe. I have that right? Well, anyway, one of those titles.
Yeah, it's all under that ADA.
Yeah. But still, I mean, it still has to be worked into the planning.
Absolutely.
The budget planning.
Right. So that's where the district really, quite frankly, did a very nice job of navigating those over the last few years, having the unknowns, not knowing what allowable growth was going to be until well after the budget had to be set, and having the across-the-board budget cuts. We're very fortunate, I feel like, to be in the situation that we're in. We're moving forward very strategically as our forecasts allow, and so it's disappointing for the register to slam us for that.
Yeah. And again, and I think the fact that they have not done a follow-up, the fact that you've not got a return phone call, suggests to me that maybe they think, okay, we didn't play this one quite right.
Just that the basic information was inaccurate, and that's hard to counteract that once that's out there in the ether.
Have you had a lot of feedback from people, from the general public, from other news sources?
No.
All right.
No.
All right. Well.
Yeah.
I appreciate you returning my phone call, coming on the show to talk about it.
Well, I appreciate having an opportunity to talk about it accurately.
Yeah. Okay, well, good. Let me ask you this. Again, allowable growth is a football that will be kicked around for, ideally just another couple of weeks, but the debate could last longer if lawmakers choose, as they have done it, as you pointed out, in recent years, if they choose to avoid the deadline and just keep debating it. But you've got to make decisions, so you've got to kind of estimate what allowable growth is likely to be. Mm-hmm. I know the Senate Democrats passed 4% allowable growth. Again, that's good. That's probably a little bit ahead of what inflation might be, depending on what area of. Maybe with healthcare costs, it'll be above that. But the fact that it's been so tight for so many years, 4% makes a heck of a lot of sense. Actually, I think 6% would make more sense. But
I do too.
But again, we're probably not going to get that. I don't know whether you think we're going to get 4%. If you could look into your crystal ball, and you probably have to do this. You and the board members are probably doing this right now.
Yeah, we are.
Figuring out what you're likely to see so you can begin to base your budget projections on that. Right. Maybe you can't tell me what your crystal ball says.
Well, I tell you, this year is even more challenging because of how the governor has decided to approach this, and now how the Senate has sort of matched him on the opposite side. So it looks like quite a tug of war being set up. I feel like we're going to get something. I would be thrilled with 4%, but in the last several years, there has been willingness to even give zero allowable growth. So I don't know. I'm loath to offer my prediction.
Well, I'll offer mine.
Okay,
3%.
3%.
I think you're going to get 3%. Yeah, and I think if you do, that will. And I think the tension right now. The tension is between the Senate Democrats, who control the Senate, obviously, the governor and the House Republicans. I think the tension, once the reform issue is kind of addressed, or at least heading in some direction, I think you're going to see more tension between the House Republicans and the governor. And that there's a precedent for that. That happened back in the mid-'90s toward Governor Branstad's last term in office. Mm-hmm. And I think House Republicans were walking around that chamber muttering and cursing him under their breath. They did not like what he was doing. And I think in the end, he's going to see the wisdom of trying to do enough for allowable growth. Even though we may not like the way he's using it as a political football right now, I think he will do the right thing in the end, or at least come close enough to the right thing where he will be more in line with the Senate Democrats than with House Republicans. That's what my crystal ball is saying, but I don't know. Maybe I should get out a dust rag and clean it off a little bit and see if I'm reading it correctly. So,
I would take 3, Ed.
All right, take 3. We'll do what we can.
Especially if they let us know in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't count on that. I'm not going to count on that. My crystal ball is not at all speaking to that possibility. But again, I do think I think it's an important issue, and folks. do take time to talk with your lawmakers, Democratic and Republican. If you got someone doing the right thing, thank them. If you got someone doing what you would rather see them not do, encourage them to do what they can. And again, there are a lot of great resources out there. Sometimes the Register can be a good resource, sometimes not. But again, there's plenty of folks at the local level, in the school district, in the administration, and often on the board who are willing to talk with you about how to, why certain policy changes, or in this case, funding levels are appropriate. So again, do not be shy. Tom, thank you for not being shy. Appreciate you coming on the show.
You bet. Anybody's free to call anytime. We're pretty good about getting back to people, and really we want people to understand.
Great. Yeah, 242-7911.
Or 7766 is an easier one to
7766?
Yep.
Okay. I've memorized 7911 for so many years, it's easy for me, but 7766.
Yep.
It almost feels patriotic.
It does.
All right.
How about that?
Tom, thanks for joining us.
All right, thanks a lot, Ed.
Folks, I want to thank Gateway Market for sponsoring this segment of our show. They're at 20th and Woodland. They're my grocery store. They're the grocery store for a lot of folks, and they keep their money in the local community. They again carry a lot of food from local farms, local dairies, meat producers, vegetables, fruits. Check them out, folks, if you haven't been there. Also, a great place for lunch, supper, or even breakfast. They have a wonderful cafe. That's Gateway Market at 20th and Woodland. We'll be back in a few minutes. Maureen McHugh with Physicians for Social Responsibility is joining me. We're going to talk about coal and climate change.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
The dawn of a new era begins.
Well, good morning. This is the 7th of June in the Lord's year 2010, and this is day 1 of webcast1live.com. We will begin with Max World Live with my special guest, Tom Coates. In just a minute, there's Tom. Wait. Howdy. And we will be live for the very first time on Webcast One Live. Someday we're going to look back on this and say, gosh, remember that old day in history? Wonder where Walter Cronkite was. He must have been around hanging there too. But actually, it's the beginning of Webcast One Live. And thank you for listening. Thanks, Rob Spearman, and everybody who's put together this project together. And we're ready to go live now. So thanks for listening to MaxWorldLive.com.
I can't tell you that it's going real well from time to time, but it is going.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
We're on the Skywalk here, folks. Fallon Forum broadcasting from the Webcast One live studio. Busy place out there today. Lots of folks passing by, and if you pass by and you wave at me and I don't wave back, that means because I'm talking and paying attention to my program. If I do wave, that means I'm not paying attention, and that's a problem in and of itself. Is it not? I want to thank Community CPA and Associates for sponsoring this segment of our show. And I want to go right to our phone lines and welcome Maureen McHugh to the program. Maureen is a physician. She is with the Iowa chapter of Physicians for Social Responsibility, a group that does a lot of good work, including in the area of climate change and energy. Maureen, welcome to the program.
Hi, Ed. Thanks for having me.
How are things? You're calling us from Iowa City, I believe?
No, I'm calling you from Oxford. You know, that
Oxford.
town that has about 300 people when you count the chickens.
Well, I'm glad to know the chickens are people, too.
Yeah.
Hey. Beyond that, big news the other day. Mid-American Energy, according to the story, the online story, said they would stop burning coal in 7 of the power plants in Iowa. That surprised me. I did not see that coming. Big news. What's your take on it?
I think it's big news. We didn't see it coming when it came, but it's been a really big push by lots of organizations. Sierra Club, as you know, got big funding to do it, and so they were the lead on it. But many organizations, Friends of the Earth, Physicians for Social Responsibility, others like the Lung Association and so on, have been pushing so hard to control emissions. And so Mid-American finally saw the writing on the wall and said, you know, we are just not going to get what we want out of coal anymore. The price is going to just continue to rise with so many concerns. So they're, reading the tea leaves and moving on. Our concern, of course, is what are they moving on to?
Natural gas and nuclear power.
Right. These also are of great concern to everybody. The news just keeps coming out about the threats associated with fracking as well as with nuclear power. As you may or may not know, there was a group of physicians who spent some time in Japan just a couple of months ago talking with people around the country, in particular around Fukushima, assessing the damage, the ongoing damage, the never-ending disaster there. So all of these forms of old fuel, the fossils of fuel, both fossil fuel and nuclear, pose a number of very, very significant threats to all of our health.
Right, nuclear power being a fossil fuel because it's using uranium is what you're saying.
Yeah, well, not just because it's using it, but where it gets it, how it gets it, what happens with the waste.
But just let me back up a little bit here. The lawsuit was filed based on the Federal Clean Air Act.
Yeah.
And given the standards established by the EPA based on the Clean Air Act, it was determined that many of the particles released in the burning of coal were in violation of standards set by the EPA, and again, even I don't know where the whole clean coal debate fits into this, but again, many of Mid-American's coal burning plants are older, and so apparently, it basically this is. It looks to me like Mid-American saw a very, very expensive lawsuit with a lot of good arguments, environmentally and legally, on the side of your group and on the side of the Sierra Club, and decided just to try to settle this. Again, I don't. It seems huge to me though that they agreeing not to burn coal. That's huge. I mean, they must have a plan in place. And again, maybe you're telling me the plan is, more fracking and more natural gas and more nuclear power. But is that it, or are there other options that Mid-American might be able to look at that would allow it to head, I mean, it's done a good job on wind.
Yeah, it continues to invest in wind. That is, I think, one of the good options. By and large, many of us working on this issue would like to see a lot more resources going to develop distributed wind energy sources.
Right.
But clearly, we still need some larger sources that only companies with the kind of economic reach that Mid-American has, to develop some of the larger wind resources. And so, we would encourage them to continue that. We would encourage them to invest in solar, but again, at the same time, not squeezing out smaller, distributed, community-owned, cooperative.
Yeah, and again, that's how wind used to be. When wind first got started, it was, farmers would put up a windmill, small business people would put together a plan for a small wind farm. And then when the law changed and allowed Mid-American to produce, not just to, provide the finished product to consumers, but to produce the wind that generated the electricity, they went whole hog in developing it. And they got some public subsidies as well, of course. And I guess nobody's complaining. I think your point is, and I would agree, is that there ought to be opportunities for smaller producers, not just so that there are more players involved, but that it's more, geographically dispersed as well.
Well, not only that, but that there is some control over prices, there's control of access,
yes,
and it helps to support communities if communities can have a larger voice in how it's all put together, how it is distributed, So again, going back to the issue of coal and Mid-American, I think it's the other thing that's coming down the pike that's not mentioned in this article. I mean, they're responding to the air quality issues and emissions, but there's also a lot of talk about coal ash waste and laws to control that. So, coal producers are being squeezed at both ends, and then, of course, there is the whole climate issue that is supposedly is going to be addressed in this next 4 years.
Yes. And we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking more about that on Monday with both State Senator Rob Hogue.
Oh, good.
And also with Wally Taylor, the lawyer with the Sierra Club. Yeah. The broader issue of climate change. But so folks, I should say, too, if you want to call in, the number is 244-0077, 244-0077. It's 515 here in Central Iowa, or if you're calling long distance, 855-244-0077. My guest this segment of the show is Dr. Maureen McHugh with Physicians for Social Responsibility. Later in the program, Heather Ryan is joining me. And just to kind of tie this back in, Maureen, we've had a lot of the focus of our conversation here on energy generation has been Mid-American's interest in building a nuclear power plant. And to date, consumer groups, environmental groups, the American Association of Retired Persons, ARP, have formed a coalition that has been able to stop Mid-American from getting, well, who knows how much, maybe as much as $2 billion from its ratepayers to pay for a nuclear power plant. Again, with coal now being, phased out at its power plants here in Iowa, do you think we'll see Mid-American push even harder this session for a nuclear power plant?
Well, of course, I think that question should go to what's his name, Furman, of Mid-American. I can't read his mind or, divulge or understand all of what's going on in their various meetings. But my understanding is they haven't exactly dropped the idea, although much of the world has. Given
Germany is getting out of it altogether.
Pardon?
Germany is backing out of nuclear power altogether, completely.
Yes, as are other countries.
Right.
But we are watching carefully for any kind of stealth planning. The word on the streets is that they've dropped their interest in the CWIP, the Construction Work in Progress boondoggle, wherein they get to charge ratepayers before anything happens and continue to charge them whether or not anything happens and never have any responsibility to pay people back. There was such a coordinated response to that proposal that I really don't think they're going to go in that direction. But there is still some concern about administrative rules changes via the IUB. If they change something through the IUB and their rate-making rules, could they potentially get...
That's the Iowa Utility Board.
Yeah. So, the game is still up in the air as far as anybody knows. It hasn't been brought to a neat and complete conclusion.
Right. Well, perhaps this is a question one of us might ask Majority Leader Mike Gronstal at some point. He seems to have he's the one who has pushed for this in the past and not been successful. So. Right. Anyway.
It's another question you can actually pose to both Rob Hogue and Wally when you get them on Monday in terms of climate change, because I think both of them have their ears close to the ground also with regard to this question. We're all very concerned about energy policies here in Iowa, energy policies nationally, energy policies internationally.
Right.
It is energy policies and the politics and the economics around our energy that is really going to determine the future of life on this planet.
Right. But yeah, I mean, and again, you're exactly right. There's so much at stake, and again, we need to keep fighting. But I think we need to also consider this a significant victory.
Oh, sure, absolutely, indeed. Any time we can take any coal offline, so much the better. The problem is always keep attentive to what are they replacing it with, because fracking is turning out to be just as challenging to our health, to our environment.
Let me ask you about that. There's talk about fracking being used up in northeast Iowa, in Alameda County, to develop a natural gas area. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, every area that they do the fracking in has a little bit different geology, a little bit different composition in terms of gases involved, and in terms of the kinds of water required, the local water resources. The problem in trying to make some kind of overall kind of statement is that there are these differences, and people who are promoting it, of course, are quite able to exploit those differences to promote their issue. But we have seen the problem with the release of methane, which is about 20 times more powerful as a greenhouse gas than is carbon sourced pollutants. And we know that there are increasingly coming out reports of illness along the lines where the fracking is being done. There's concerns about subsidence. There's concerns about the use of water in order to do the fracking, the pollution of the water.
And a lot of this debate has been out east in the Appalachians. And I know New York is seeing quite a dialogue about this, but it looks like we may begin to see a dialogue about this here in Iowa as well.
Yes. Yeah, well, I mean, the places where fracking could be done, technically speaking, are immense and cover much of the country, and and everybody is really gung-ho to get on the bandwagon. I think before there's been any kind of real environmental assessment done or any real health assessment done, it's like we're going to get in there, it's like the Wild West, and develop this energy source before we have too much information to say we should not develop this resource.
Yeah.
And in the end, burning anything is going to contribute to our climate challenges.
Right.
We need to put the money, we need to put the jobs, we need to make the investments in renewable, non-burnable resources. The sun shines most every day, whether or not
lately, but
it's still there, and the wind blows much of the time. And if we were spending the same kind of money, resources, in developing mechanisms, batteries, storage.
But those voices don't have as much power in Congress, and that needs to change. Maureen, I've got to run to a break, but I do want to talk with you at some point about the Keystone Pipeline, which continues to be a very, very hot-button item. And there is apparently a rally coming up this month in Washington, D.C., a nationwide call to action to try to convince President Obama to put the final nail in the coffin of this proposal that is bad on so many levels.
Yes.
So we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, we're encouraging everybody who can to make it out to Washington on the 17th. This will be a nationwide effort. And for those who don't want to spend the carbon to get out there, although there are buses and vans going even here from Iowa, there will be events all across the state on the 15th in conjunction with the efforts in Washington, D.C. It's all around President's Day celebrations and sales. You know, let's not sell our future. Let's secure our future by addressing this really, really big assault.
Well, let's. We will talk about that before. We'll talk about that more before we actually get to that date. I got to run to a break. Maureen, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you again for having me, and keep up the good work.
Thank you. Dr. Maureen McHugh, folks, with Physicians for Social Responsibility, joining us on the phone from Oxford, Iowa. I want to thank Community CPA and Associates for sponsoring this segment of our show. Community CPA and Associates, founded by Ying Sa, who has built quite a business, and reason being, she offers a great service at an affordable price. She's been my accountant for several years, and I've sent a lot of people her way, and people are happy with what they're getting. Again, not just very reliable delivery of services in terms of your tax return, but in some cases, in my case, for example, identifying past refunds owed that others had missed. So again, I would definitely give Ying Sa a shout. She's with again Community CPA and Associates there on Ingersoll Ave in the just west of downtown Des Moines. And go online, Community CPA and Associates. Just communitycpa.com or 288-3188. That's 288-3188. We'll be back in a few minutes. Heather Ryan will be my guest. It's always takes some courage to run for office, but I can't think of anything more courageous than running against Mitch McConnell. She, of course, did that as a Democrat. Mitch McConnell was apparently getting some possible threats from the Republican side, from the Tea Party side. We'll talk with Heather about that in a couple minutes.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Community CPA is the 15th largest CPA firm in Iowa, providing audit, tax, and accounting services. Community CPA specializes in international tax treaty and double taxation avoidance among countries and states. 9 dedicated, experienced, hardworking staff are the company's foundation, and their compassion towards every client is the secret behind Community CPA's success. At Community CPA, you can expect quality service year-round. Call 288-3188. Community CPA, 3816 Ingersoll. Experience the difference.
I'm a burrito.
I'm a fighting burrito, full of fresh ingredients prepared before your very eyes.
I don't have eyes.
I have over 28 options and 268 million combinations, including Rizo for vegetarians.
I can take my meat off and call myself vegetarian.
Put that back on. The Fighting Burrito is locally owned right here in Ames.
I'm owned by some big corporation somewhere. Say, you want to go on a date?
No thanks. I'm seeing a quesadilla.
The Fighting Burrito in their new location at 117 Welch Avenue by Iowa State. Online, fightingburrito.com. Join the fight.
This is Dr. Holding, the Story County Veterinary Clinic. For 15 years, we have been spaying and neutering feral cat groups at affordable prices. Wild cats destroy game birds and songbirds. A single female cat can produce over 4,000 kittens in 7 years. The shelters are full, so unwanted kittens will be put to sleep. Your cats will stay home and stay healthy. Call us for all your dog and cat needs at the Story County Veterinary Clinic between Ames and Nevada on Highway 30, 1 mile east of Interstate 35, 515-232-8766.
This moment of silence brought to you by Tally's Restaurant Bar and Catering, home of Des Moines' premier rooftop dining experience. Located in the heart of Beaverdale, Tally's offers speedy and affordable rooftop lunch, catering for events both large and small, innovative cuisine, as well as vegetarian and gluten-free menus. Come to Tally's for live music, dry-aged steaks, Sunday brunch, and all-you-can-eat ribs every Monday night. Tally's Restaurant Bar and Catering at 2712 Beaver Avenue. Call 279-2067. That's 279-2067.
It's time to think about upgrading the efficiency of your furnace and air conditioner. Leonard Tinker Heating and Cooling has provided honest, comprehensive competent service for over 20 years. Whether it's your home or business, for repair work or to install a more energy-efficient furnace or air conditioner, call Leonard Tinker at 263-0422. That's 263-0422. For honest, competent heating and cooling service, call Leonard Tinker at 263-0422.
Nestled in the heart of downtown, Ritual Cafe is one of Des Moines' most unique places, offering a wide variety of coffee and tea. Ritual Cafe also serves the only all-vegetarian menu in town. And Ritual Cafe is a cultural hub for artists and musicians, with a performance stage hosting local, national, and international talent. Make Ritual Cafe a part of your daily ritual. On 13th Street between Locust and Grand in downtown Des Moines. And check out ritualcafe.com.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Max Wellman, folks, bringing us back to our conversation. And if you have not yet purchased tickets to Max Wellman's Valentine's Day performances, you should. One's at 7 o'clock, the other's at 9 p.m. Dinner with the date, and then go to Max Wellman. What could be a more romantic evening than that, okay? He's going to be performing at the 4th Street Theater at Java Joe's. Check him out, folks. And I want to thank also Tinker Heating and Cooling for sponsoring this segment of our show. Heather Ryan is with me.
Howdy. How you doing today?
Good. Step up to the mic there.
I'm wearing my big Kentucky hair today since
You
we're
got your big Kentucky hair?
It's getting squished down by the headphones, but otherwise, in honor of talking Kentucky politics, it's the big Kentucky
Now,
hair.
you moved to Kentucky for what reason?
I ran a congressional campaign for Eric Strite, so I moved from Washington, D.C. to West Kentucky to run his campaign.
And I think I have misspoken. I thought you ran against Mitch McConnell.
That is incorrect.
That is incorrect.
I ran against Ed Whitfield, but Mitch McConnell is the reason that I ran against Ed Whitfield. So it's kind of
that's what I had in my mind.
kind of accurate.
I knew there was a Mitch McConnell connection to your congressional campaign.
Right. I was the executive director of a nonprofit organization. It was called the Maiden Alley Cinema. I was filming Mitch McConnell was filming a campaign commercial in our nonprofit. Obviously not with my consent, but you can't do that.
Right.
You can't just film anywhere you want just because you are who you are. So I'm filming him filming, and then Heaven was so brazen.
That's your daughter?
Yeah, she was going to ask him how he felt about the people. Does he think about the people that he sends into harm's way in war? At the time, it was a very big issue. Her father had just gotten back from the Middle East. He's active duty. And so she was going to say, her and her 10-year-old self was going to say, do you care about the people that you send into harm's way? Well, his big bully bodyguards were like, get out of our way, young women, because we're so threatening. So Heaven screams at him. She's like this tall, and she screams at him, do you care if my dad dies? She's 10. She had this much time to think about it. She didn't think about it. She blurted this out. Irked Mitch McConnell to no end. So he called my board of directors that night, and I was fired within a week.
So he basically pressured them to fire you.
Yeah, he really holds the purse strings of all of Kentucky. I mean, he is the pork queen of that area.
King.
Okay.
Well, maybe queen. I don't know. We
you
can go
insist,
with queen.
but I'm going with queen.
All right, we'll go with queen.
So,
right.
if we had a riverfront project that was, right there, and they had to choose, is the riverfront project money more important than Heather Ryan? Heck yeah.
Yeah.
I can't compete with that.
No.
So I lost my job on Martin Luther King Day, actually.
I would have fired you too.
I totally would have fired me.
But not on Martin Luther King Day. I would have waited till at least the day after.
You should have waited till Tuesday.
Yeah,
Come on
really,
now. It's
come
just
on.
wrong.
Tasteless. Okay, so apparently there are 17 little Tea Party groups in Kentucky. And they're
Tea
all
Party's
united
very-
under one banner called the United Tea Party of Kentucky, appropriately.
They're very popular. They're very powerful in
And
Kentucky.
they are just last week, I think it was, they signed a press release promising to oppose Mitch McConnell. So you're going to go down there and help the Tea Party folks in their primary challenge to McConnell?
Well, unfortunately, I have to beg to differ with them here. They are powerful in Kentucky. I'll give them that. But they among all 100,000 of them or whatever, they probably have 5 teeth. So they're not entirely well
5
organized among all of them.
Molars or incisors or what?
Just this one right here.
Okay.
On 5 different of them.
So you can rip it, they can't really tear.
Yeah,
Okay. All
exactly. They really don't have the teeth, literally and figuratively. They don't have what it's going to take out Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell in a primary election is not beatable. In the general, if Ashley Judd runs, it's possible, but he's just not beatable. He has,
well, I mean, but isn't the Republican Party in so many states becoming so much more polarized that if you can just turn out your base for the primary, you can beat a quote moderate. I mean, I have a hard time thinking of McConnell as a moderate Republican, but
in any other state, I'd say that was true, but not Kentucky.
Not Kentucky.
Even their Democrats are Republicans. I had a 60-40 split in my congressional district. 60% were Democrats, 40% registered Republicans. But even the Democrats are voting Republican because of the social issues. So in any other state, I'd say you were right, but not Kentucky. He is not beatable. Even these people that are saying, there's only 17% of them that's going to vote for Republican, they're all going to vote for him.
All right. Well, so what's going to happen nationwide? I mean, is this an example of what the Tea Party is going to do in other states? Are we going to see them maybe help organize a very conservative Senate candidate for the primary to, fill the Republican nomination for Tom Harkin's seat? I don't know.
Well, I guess if that's going to be, I can't wait for that race. It's going to be a very interesting race to watch. But I guess if that were going to be the case, wouldn't it be King? And if that's the case, then King scares me a lot. He's the devil. And so if the devil becomes our senator, I will cry every night and pray to the stars above that the devil is not our senator for 6 more years.
I don't think King stands a chance. See, I think if the Tea Party gets becomes too prominent in the Republican primary here, they're going to nominate somebody that will be easily beaten by a Braley or whoever else might win the Democratic nomination.
That's kind of why I'm hoping for a Tea Party type person, like a King, like a crazy Nazi freak. But, because Braley will easily take him out. Braley's fantastic. But I honestly think the Tea Party is going downhill. I don't see them with a lot of power.
Is the Tea Party going downhill? Folks, you want to join the conversation?
Absolutely.
244-0077. 244-0077. Let's go to, is this Frank? Frank.
Yes, it is.
Frank, I've heard all about you. Let me hear it.
Yeah,
is
but
the Tea Party going downhill?
Is Elvis really your dad, Frank?
I would give you a suggestion. Unless Ed erases this tape, you've already put your foot in your mouth twice.
I doubt that. And anyway, even if I did, I never apologize. So, Frank, you got to get to know me better, buddy. I never apologize. So if you feel like I put my foot in my mouth, at least it tastes good.
Let me get it out before you start ramming on it.
Okay.
Already, you've called people freaks, and you've besmirched people in your state by calling them toothless. Now,
that's not my state.
That's kind of like that's besmirching the South.
I'm not from the South.
Obviously, you're not from the South. You're a migrant from the north to the South.
She lives in Iowa.
Well, the bottom line is, how far do you think you're going to go in politics, taking broad swipes at voting blocks like that?
Is that your question?
Yeah.
Actually, I think I've done pretty darn well. I came from the east side of Des Moines, and I graduated from Drake University, and I ran for Congress. And for a woman in the South that's a flaming liberal, way to the left, I got almost 100,000 votes. And when you're packing a vagina, that's not exactly an asset in West Kentucky. So actually, I think I've done pretty darn well just by being brazen and saying what's on my mind.
Please use that kind of language on a national stage.
What kind of language? A vagina? Because it's a medical term that is actually acceptable by every doctor in America. So I'm cool with that. I mean, if you're going to disagree with the doctors, I'm rocking with that. That's okay, but I'm not going to. So, I think I've done pretty darn well. I'm here on Ed Fallon's show, so I'm already doing something right because he's rock and roll.
My point, does anybody really think the power in Washington resides in Kentucky or Nevada?
It resides on K Street. It's the money of the lobbyists that run the place.
In the United States, the power resides in the port cities.
It's the lobbyists, right?
It's like New York, the commerce out of the port, in and out of the port, what comes in and out of the ports is very important to the commerce of that state. Kentucky is not sitting on the ocean. Nevada's not sitting on the ocean.
This is a new and rather bizarre theory, Frank.
I was not sitting on the ocean, so are you saying that we're negligible as well?
No, what I am telling you, if you read the history of the United States, the power players are where the ports are and where the shipping comes in and the shipping comes out. And for anybody to think that Harry Reid or Mitch McConnell is the power players, you're blind.
But Frank, I think you're looking at history, but not the current reality. I mean, the definition of a port anymore And again, and if you just want to talk about seaports, a lot of them have moved to the south. Okay, a lot of the very significant areas of commerce.
And Reed are puppets. Okay, there's people in the Washington that is pulling the strings, and they are the mouthpieces. There's the puppets. You know, whenever the mafia wants to put a front man in front of a casino, they pick the cleanest, squeakiest clean guy they can find to front the casino, while all the illegal money laundering goes on behind the scenes.
Okay, we're digressing here. I have to disagree because, first of all, Kentucky's right on a port. I lived in Paducah, and we have a lot of
river.
We have a lot of river traffic going through there. But additionally, I mean that's not even the point. Mitch McConnell has an intense amount of influence and money, and he can put an immense amount of pressure on somebody, as evidenced just by my job being lost because my daughter irked him. I mean, come on now.
Well,
that's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of
I had Charles Gabus, a local Ford dealer, one of the biggest Ford dealers in the Midwest. My sister went out and talked to him why we couldn't get an autograph from Bill Elliott. And he stopped and said, well, I shouldn't even stop and talk to you. Surprise, surprise. Somebody powerful ignored you.
I have no idea. Well, there's a difference between being ignored and losing your job as an executive director of a nonprofit organization, Frank.
Yeah, she can prove that, actually, Frank.
I can prove it. It is all documented. Look me up. Google me, man. I'm totally Googleable.
Okay, I'll Google you.
You heard it, folks. Heather Ryan, totally Googleable.
Totally Googleable.
Frank, I want to know, Frank, I do have a personal question I got to ask you.
Okay.
Is Elvis your dad?
He could be.
Okay, I heard that, and I'm just.
My mother was in the back seat of his limo in 1956, and he actually kissed my mother, so I could possibly be.
Yeah.
Please pass the jelly donuts, please.
Yeah. Well, Frank, nice to have a celebrity on our show. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for the call.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Sorry we don't agree, but what else is new?
Oh well, that's.
Hey, Frank.
Right. About every day.
Have a good day.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess, Heather, you use very strong language sometimes. I don't have trouble with that.
I do. And you know what? That's the thing. I really think that women in politics, we walk a different fine line than men. Men can use much more brash, in-your-face language, and it's not acceptable for women too. But you know what? I was in the military, and I figured I earned the right to talk like a sailor. So if someone has an issue with it, that's a personal issue with me. Don't vote for me. I'm cool with that. I don't please everybody, and you know what? I'm okay with that.
So what do you think of the? There's increased conversations now about the fact that Iowa is one of only 2 states with Mississippi that have never elected a woman to Congress, the U.S. Senate, or the governor's office, and now with Senator Harkin's seat open, and possibly Braley's seat coming open, and perhaps Latham's seat. Who knows? There may be there's a domino effect here that's hard to predict, but I think there'll be there's at least a Senate seat and possibly at least one congressional seat. Again, open seats are much easier. I mean, that's my theory is this. Iowa has nothing against women in politics. The reason women have never won an election to a U.S. House seat, the Senate, or the governor's seat here in Iowa is because they've always been running against incumbents, and incumbents tend to rock. It's really hard to oust an incumbent.
It's like 98%.
Yeah. I mean, that's across the country. It's really, really hard to unseat an incumbent. A lot of that has to do with money, but there are other issues beyond that. And that's the reason. Every single woman who has run for Congress has challenged a male incumbent. That, to me, is the problem. Now we have an open seat. Maybe we have 2, maybe 3 open seats. Is this the opportunity for a woman to win a seat in Congress?
Oh, this is absolutely the opportunity right here, right now. It was so exciting for me. Well, first of all, you got to know Tom Harkin is my personal hero. I bow to Tom Harkin. He is the catalyst for why I became involved in politics. Besides you, of course, Ed. But
nice suck up.
No, he was at a nuclear freeze walk when I was little, and I think you had part.
I was.
And that was like my pinnacle. He joined the military, went on the GI Bill to college. I did the exact same thing. So when he announced that he was retiring, I was sad, but I was like, oh, finally, it's time for a woman to step up, a strong woman to step up and take the reins, take the bull by the horns and really assert herself and hopefully win the seat. Now, Bruce Braley will probably realistically get it, but there's a whole line of other seats that open up. So even if we can't get the Senate, maybe we can get a House. There are just so many possibilities that open up, and it makes me tickled. Yeah.
So, I mean, there is talk of Pam Yoakum running for the 1st Congressional District if Braley runs for Senate. Mm-hmm. That would be fantastic, in my opinion. I mean, Pam is a strong progressive who's also got a great political head. Now the president of the Senate, And just a real great pedigree and solid positions on issues that I think are going to be really important and resonate very well in that district. So
yeah, it'll be exciting to watch. The next 2 years are going to be fantastic in Iowa and Kentucky, but really fantastic in Iowa to watch.
But Heather Ryan won't be running for the U.S. Senate.
Not in the near future, no. Eventually, yes. Eventually, I'll have Franks to irk all over the world. But
okay, well, yeah, you can practice by irking Frank, early on. Just use him as a warm up.
I'm getting ready.
All right,
Frank.
Yeah. Hey, well, thanks for joining us, Heather. I appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely, my pleasure. Anytime,
folks. Bradshaw will be with you next. I'll be back on Monday. We've got a great show already planned on Monday involving State Senator Rob Hogue will be with us. Also, Wally Taylor. Got a lot of other issues to cover next week, and who knows what might happen between now and then. I do want to thank Webcast One Live for the use of the studio here. I want to thank Maddie Arrington for producing the show. I want to encourage folks to go to my website, become a supporter of the Fallon Forum. For $30 a month, you can be a friend of the Fallon Forum. If you can't do 30, there are other options as well. If you've got a business, an organization, an event, something coming up that you'd like to help promote on the show, let me know. We'll do what we can to help. If you are somebody that I can believe in. Again, I've never liked what happens on commercial radio, where any corporation that has deep pockets can get their voice out there. In my case, you got to really be, believe. You got to be doing good work and believing in the right causes. So give me a shout if you fit that description, and we'll see what we can make happen. Again, I'll be back on Monday, but stay tuned for Bradshaw. He'll be with you next. I do want to thank Tinker Heating and Cooling for sponsoring this segment of the show. Yes, that's the Tinker family that you might hear referenced in the Tinker versus the Des Moines Public School lawsuit that goes way back to the 1960s. So good pedigree there, and great work on furnaces. 32 years in the business of fixing furnaces and air conditioning units. Give Leonard Tinker a shout. Thank him for supporting the Fallon Forum, and get your furnace working the right way, especially in this kind of weather. 263-0422. That's 263-0422. Tinker Heating and Cooling. Thanks, folks. Have a great weekend.
I'm Brian Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershide.
I am administrative manager.
I am the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
If we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, it's your home.
It's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're gonna do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's gonna be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're gonna do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed right or it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
If you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you gonna say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're gonna be listening. They're gonna wanna know what your challenges are. Then they're gonna come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? You can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me, but is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great.